So I guess let's get started then. And like I said, I don't even know how to start these things.
That was cool. So we're here talking about the Bahamas COVID-19 API with you, Joseph Pinder. And so we're trying to just get a sense of what it is, what it's actually doing, and how it can help the people of the Bahamas. You know, we've been lacking a lot of information, especially good data on COVID-19. Data in the country in general is hard to get. So just tell us about the API, what it is, and how you actually got started on it.
Well, the API basically is an application programming interface. In short, it's kind of it can be either static or a dynamic database. This one that we're using for COVID is static. That means it doesn't change. It doesn't change with any. It's not modifiable other than with new entries from the system that we're using. So once it's set, it's done. You're not going to be able to feed and manipulate it in any particular way beyond getting the data out and doing what you have to do with it. The benefit of APIs in general, though, is that it creates access points for data. And I think this is the first public one we have for the Bahamas. I'm not sure. I'm really hoping that someone else did something like this. But as of right now, I think it's the first of its kind. I'm sure there are other agencies and businesses using their own internal APIs. There's no doubt about that, I'm sure. But to say that actual Bahamian public data being available for anybody to use, and more particularly actual Bahamian data readily available to use for Bahamians, I think this is the first of its kind.
Right. And so it's been a lot of work so far for you.
Yeah.
How far have you actually gotten? There's a lot of data that's been out since the start of COVID-19, but how far have you actually gotten?
We have, well, this site is built. The API is usable, but we don't have a full data set yet. We have about 80 projects, 80 case reports entered. All the vaccination reports have been entered up to date and are up to date. So anything that's, I think the last one was that this is November 13th. So that was the last entry, and we have all of those reports that were presented. One of the things in terms of using an API and using a database and a programming language is that we're able to reverse engineer some of these data points and get more information out, percentages, population, we're able to calculate against the population. So vaccination by the total population. We have vaccination by eligible populations, so those who are actually able to receive the shot, and then population immunity or herd immunity, what the goal is. We can calculate on those percentages as well. There's more work to be done in terms of this to get the actual dosages of we have first dosages, and then earlier reports had started out with, it reported the second dosage, but when they introduced Johnson & Johnson, they kind of switched over to fully vaccinated. So there's some programming to get the second dose total, and then we want to highlight the single dosages that were issued as well. So basically those Johnson & Johnson shots that were issued in the country, we want to have those numbers as well. We also want to have some more data in terms of per 100,000 and so on and of that kind. We're looking to introduce some charts. Some of this will be reworked in terms of the homepage. So the dashboard, I think, we talked about that with the original article that you put in the Guardian. So all of that is looking to be incorporated into this effort right now.
That's excellent. That's excellent. A lot of work has gone into it so far. How much help have you gotten on this? And do you need more?
Oh, I need more. I definitely need more. I can't turn down anything that anybody wants to do at this point is well received. We've had, we are highlighting on the homepage our contributors. So these are persons that have actually made entries into the application. And so if you can see basically what they entered, and depending on the report that they go into, it'll be at the bottom of the report. I'm probably trying to rework this to highlight these persons more because they are making an effort to help, and you want to highlight people who are doing things in the community, especially with this kind of project. We want to highlight those who work in this field as well. And open source is like a big thing all over the world. It's there are any number of projects that are open source that we use all of the time, and we don't realize it. And so actually having this resource here in the Bahamas, open source, it's nothing spectacular that we're doing. I don't want it to seem like this is some magnificent project. It's every day is just uncommon here, and I
it's pretty significant for Bahamas. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
The way we've received the data so far has been I don't even know how to describe it. It's normal. It's kind of sometimes hard to read. It was often in the beginning hard to understand, and they changed it several times.
Yeah, and this is what we have here. This is the original one here. Navigating the government site. I've had plenty of times when I come here and like the site has crashed or something. I think this was the original report that they did. This was when the pandemic first started, I guess, when the lockdowns and everything first started.
Right.
This was the initial data set. And as you can see, there's basically nothing here.
I can't make heads or tails of it.
Exactly.
I think I've locked this report out of my mind, actually. I don't
I'm concerned about it because we don't actually get a full data set until about, I think this is the 15th. So they went from this to this to this, which is a little more. And then we started getting some meat in these actual reports here. This is what where they kind of transitioned in 2020, and that was around the 15th of October. Actually, on the 15th of October, they changed. That's the exact date. We have, thank God for small mercies. We have a little record of it.
Amen.
And then this is the listing for 2020 documents. And so if we go to, I think it's around October 19th that you see the report that we're used to now.
Right.
And this little section here, I don't know why this was put in this format. I'm not going to speak it. So we reverse engineered it for the figures there. A student entered this. There was a recent GitHub workshop where they kind of used the API to teach kids how to code. So this is one of the reports that they took on. And so this little bit of information was kind of left unattended because maybe the person didn't know how to deal with it at the time or didn't want to, or that would maybe not have been the scope of the workshop. There are any number of reasons, and no blame on them, for that. But this presentation was what kind of came out, and then they switched it like immediately the next day. They went to, I think that was, what's this? This is the 19th. So the next day they went to the numbers. No. Oh, wow. Okay, no. I was wrong. I can be wrong. So we got somewhere, it's somewhere later down. Okay, there we go. So on the 23rd of October last year. Mm-hmm. All right. So that's one of the challenges is we can go back so far with the reports as they are, as long as they're in some kind of format of this nature, we're able to extract a lot of information. But going further back to the original start of the pandemic is going to be a little more difficult. We would hope to get some more information, hopefully from BIS or the ministry itself, to allow us to fill in those data points and make them available. Yeah. There's also the challenge of demographics. So we don't have anything accessible in terms of demographics to actually compare these numbers to for rates in the islands. So that's actually another project that I'm looking to take on in terms of creating another API for the Bahamas, is to convert that census data so we can have a sense of comparison. And it's not just something like that would not just be for COVID, but I mean, there are any number of business applications that it can be applied to, hospital applications, research, and all of those. A lot of these things that are kind of encapsulated and tucked away are not being used the way they should. And the fact of the matter is that the country is doing poorly in regards of its data because there's no centralized point of access for these bits of information and ensuring that they're accurate and clear.
Right, right. Well, I guess we have a Department of Statistics now. What is it? A Ministry of Statistics? Something new, right? Hopefully they get it together. But I mean, since this has come out, have you even been able to get access at the Ministry of Health or anyone to improve the number, to improve the database?
No, and I mean, I would love to know somebody that would be willing to assist. I've had persons reach out on my behalf. I'm not looking for anything particularly from the ministry. Government as a general rule in the Bahamas, I kind of, don't think highly in terms of getting assistance. Usually it's after you've kind of gained some success that they kind of jump in. Yeah. And I don't want to speak ill of the Davis administration because they just got in and they're doing some things that I like. So I really can't pick a bone with them. And then they're really busy considering all of the things that they're doing now and transitioning. So it's difficult to make any assessments of them in that regard. But definitely we would like some assistance in filling in these data points and making this API accessible and complete for the pandemic. Even if the thing is for this as well, now that we're mentioning that, is that stabilizing these data sets, I realize like going through the reports, you'll see different islands are reported, but it doesn't seem to be a consistent data set of islands. So like going forward, let's say that we were, God forbid, to end up in another pandemic, and what would be the methodology of addressing these reports? Would we go create another set of islands where we have Bimini and Cat Key? Would Bimini and Cat Key be the same at that point? Would I think in the in the vaccination reports? So if we go to the vaccination reports, you'll see here that actually so I think it was Long Island and Rum Key. Long Island and Rum Key were separated, and then they were kind of jumbled together. So there's no consistency in terms of that. And if you're not dealing with the reports, you don't know that,
Right.
So the challenge for us is creating that consistent basis to analyze this data. So the API to some extent will, once we've gotten enough data points in and enough time to work on the project, we'll start data cleaning and standardizing these data sets.
Right.
What I look to do is, like I said, in terms of demographics, probably doing comparisons of data sets and seeing how we can create a stable listing of islands and how they should be represented across the board for any projects that we do. Yeah. So that's the gist of getting the data the kind of way it needs to be. We need a lot of blanks filled in. And even in terms of the report, if you look at the reports, there's a note at the bottom here, location spending. There's been this issue in terms of location spending since 570 and 571. The number was changed. If let me see if I can actually pull those up in terms of actually showing the difference. So we have in 575. So 568. I'm not sure if it's updated yet either. So no, there's no update. So we have 101. It was 100, I think, the day before. So 569, 101, and then where are we? 568. Okay, may have changed. I'm not sure. I'll have to look at it. That means that something changed. Okay, so 103.1. Okay, yeah. So 103.1 there. And that was the 571, 570. Okay, 101, and then we got 103 here. 102. So 102, it changed. There's an addition here and that's report. It is 571. So it actually happened in 571. So 570 recorded 101. We have 102, but there's a 0 here. And in earlier reports, we saw that if there was such a change, that there would be an actual record of that change in the report. No such change was recorded here. So we're noting that in our presentation because that actually offsets this number. And we also can verify that, with the numbers here that, okay, that doesn't add up. So we have 16, 16, you got a 1, it has to come from somewhere.
Right.
So we're leaving that out. And then I think that continues over into 572. There's another, what is this, 571, 572, or 573, one of those, 572. Okay, and then there's another one here that was correct. Something happened, we got a new number. So somewhere along the line. So it happens that, there are some discrepancies in the data. And that's just because mostly I'm assuming that this is produced manually. Someone is getting these figures and just entering them. Basically the same thing we're doing. The only difference that we'll be doing is once we have the complete data set, we'll be able to run some analytics in terms of the process and actually clean those numbers up and actually get a true sense of what that data looks like.
Yeah. Now, is this something you can even actually hand over to the government entities that are doing these numbers and maybe have them do some data entry? Is that even a possibility?
Yeah, I mean, we have contributors. We have non-government officials and not even non-coders that are making entries. So it's not that it's exclusive to us. The government can say, hey, we want a dedicated team and update it. That's fine too. And I mean, it doesn't hurt us, and it helps us get this data set, this resource completed. And then the thing is, once it is actually completed and all of the figures are there and we've standardized, that makes it easy for the government to use it for their analysis. And the thing is, the great thing about it is because it's public and it's anybody can use it. Mm-hmm. Anybody can use this information. Anybody can access this and use it in their data models.
Right. And that was my next question. Who do you see using it and how do you see them using it?
Yeah, well, like I said, it was already used in a Github workshop. So basically teaching kids how to code. Yeah. This is open source, so this is available on GitHub. So anybody can take it and manipulate it and use it in any way they see fit. I have a guy who works at Hugo. Hugo is the framework that we're using. He actually is helping me do some calculations with the application, the programming language that I'm using, the framework.
Right.
And so that's been a great help as well. So it's not just me working in terms of getting things done. It's a community effort. And here again, you can see contributors to the actual API that are making the difference in terms of getting this information out there.
Yeah, no, that's excellent.
And so this is really a two-part thing. The repository on GitHub is basically where everything is stored. It's like our backend, our database for the project. It gives details on what the project is about, short and sweet, how you can contribute in tutorials. So basically, this is a complete resource for anybody who wants to participate.
Right.
And again, like I said, in terms of the actual recognition, you not only get it in terms of you get a recognition on the page itself, and you get it in the report. So any report you contribute to, you're seen. And some of these link out to persons' LinkedIn profiles. So we allow persons to highlight themselves. And, because again, this is a way to show that they're doing something worthwhile in their community and that they have the skills to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now you have gotten some interest already from, I guess, a kind of big company here, Cloud Carib, I think. What are they doing for you? What are they saying?
And that's actually great that you brought them up because Cloud Carib has decided to sponsor hosting for us. So another phase of what we're going to do is the physical reports that we have here. It's a funny thing if you go to the repository, it's going to give you it's going to say resources and it's going to say reports are listed in globs. That's the fun part. Some reports are available in the list below. And the reason this is done is it started out with just providing a link to the government website and this section here, news and press releases. and you got, you'll see little globs there as described.
Right.
But as you go further back into the reports, it kind of drops off. And okay, this is good. I'm seeing some modifications. This is excellent. That's always good. All right, nice. So we're getting this in. Okay, someone made some improvements. So that makes it easier to access some of these data sets.
Oh, good.
Because beforehand, I guess as we're working, others are working as well. So that's good. But beforehand, we would have to kind of do a rough search to get some of those. This is why here you say to search the government website, utilize Google search and use the following query, because the file names themselves are not SEO friendly or search engine optimized. So you have this ++ Ministry of Health, and it kind of offsets what's actually supposed to be searched. So we want to make these reports easily accessible and easy to find. And so in terms of that, in terms of the API website itself, I had a search feature because the reports are just growing. It's 600 now. Yeah. So navigating through, we have like some pagination here, but that's like individual pages. So we're going to extend the pagination so you can kind of jump over gaps of reports and start at particular sections. And then adding the search feature will make it more accessible and easier for those reports to be found. Right. The next thing is with Cloud for Reeves assistance in terms of hosting, we'll be able to actually host the physical reports. So these reports here, the actual place where we get the data from, we'll be able to host them on the website. And as you view the report, you can go to that. If you need to see the original data source and do any verification, you can, with those reports being linked and hosted on Cloud for Reeves.
Got you. That's very good. I mean, things are looking good. And the other thing is that we found you present the data in different ways. You have graphs and different things that can be useful for people who, undoubtedly later on, people are going to study, the response of the government, how things went in the Bahamas, and they're going to, this data is going to be useful in a lot of different forms for them, wouldn't it be?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So I don't see this being, the funny thing about it is being in this field, it's very popular to the general public. It may not be the occurring or the that have that level of popularity that it once held in their minds, because it seems to be that COVID is kind of waning away as we speak. Yeah. So that may not necessarily be it may not be the hot topic at the moment as it was of maybe just even last month. Yeah. But the application of data at any point and seeing how, like I said, data modeling, even in terms of standardizing the data set with demographics, seeing how COVID spread through the islands, which even depending on how much detail we can get, even in terms of communities, constituencies, we'll be able to see how the virus was spread, how create and this will help for future planning. This in terms of addressing it. Again, let's say we have another pandemic, having this data available and those demographic inputs to actually have comparison. You can track, okay, we're going to see some things happening in these areas.
Yeah. Most definitely.
Yeah. No, I mean, we look at all the cool things the States does, or because we're always watching CNN or something like this, or we're trying to figure out where they're getting these figures from. And we always, our first thing is they're so on point. They're doing what this is what they're utilizing to do it. These are the technologies they're using to do that. They're grabbing these data sets, they're tracking in those areas, and then they're able to make projections and use machine learning to evaluate what's going to happen and how things are going to look. Yeah. And that's basically what we look to provide in terms of getting this out there.
Yeah. Well, eventually, you're going to have, University of the Bahamas doing studies on, the government response, the health sector response.
Exactly.
Those kinds of things, vaccination, quickness, those kinds of things. And they're going to want to use something like this.
Yeah. Exactly. There's a whole bunch of afterwork that no one really considers in terms of doing these things, because you're so like I said, most of us everyday guys, in terms of, I'm not going to really be worried about that, but when it is actually useful for me, or in terms of getting information, you want it to be accessible. And these are the projects that do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So how are we going about getting more involvement in the API? You also wouldn't mind somebody actually becoming maybe a big sponsor of this.
Yes.
What are you actually looking for?
Well, in terms of sponsorship, basically the time that this requires takes away from the time that I would need to actually make money for myself to operate. Yeah. So
you call it a labor of love. It's still a labor.
It's still a labor of love. This is done in the spare time, in between time, and trying to fit in as much as possible to actually see things get off the ground to where they should be, and the development time and the resources required, even in terms of getting further assistance, that requires money. And we all know that requires money. You need to keep the lights on. You need to, pay the water bill. You need to eat lunch. All of those are real factors in terms of contributing. And so, the effort that we're offering, while it's a good deal, don't get me wrong, it's still minimal compared to what can be done with the necessary funding. And so we would hope that those and persons in the Bahamian community would want to sponsor us. So we have for any individual sponsorship, we have some sponsor buttons. You can make a donation, but we also have options for corporate sponsorship. So if you want to be a sponsor and just say we want to contribute to seeing this project come to completion, we're willing to do that, and we're willing to feature those persons who have done that in terms of corporate sponsorship. In terms of just like we did with our contributors, we want to highlight persons who are contributing to the project. We want to highlight those corporate citizens and those individuals where we can, in terms of their support.
Yeah.
So it's a practical thing. We need some help.
Yeah. Well, it's a great thing you're doing, because anybody who's even in my field, journalism, especially in the business side of things, you see how much some companies or even these international agencies sell their data for things that they've actually
created. Compiled and you're right, it's being sold.
Yeah. So this is great. Any help you can get, I'm sure.
Yeah. I honestly, it is any help that we can get. Yeah. I didn't have any expectation of help, so the any addition to the non-expectation is a bonus. The contributions that I've received from the local development community has been just more than I just put it out to the Bahamian Developers Association to see how, if anybody wanted to participate, and we got a positive response. And that's led to members of the association contributing, and that's led to the GitHub workshop, it being used in the GitHub workshop and exposing students to coding. So that for me was kind of the highlight of highlights in terms of the project so far. But definitely, getting more persons involved and actually completing the entries. If we can have some support in terms of dedicating time and hours to the time and effort to this project in terms of funding, that's even better. We'd love the assistance if we can get it.
You say on the website, anybody can do it. It takes a little bit of coding, but anybody can really kind of learn to do it. Is there like a little 5-minute session that you do with people who are interested in putting data on?
Well, the thing is, I've actually had one or two persons. I've had two beginners kind of reach out to me, and then I had a person who couldn't code at all, and so I've been willing to assist them, and they've been very open to it. The one person who didn't know how to code, she basically she was like, I got into it, and I couldn't figure it out, and it got so frustrating. And she said that it worked, and she's like, I can see how you get addicted, because I just wanted it to work, and I just had to keep pushing through, And so the joy of coding well, we're getting people into the frustration and the joy of coding, because it's a twofold thing. If it doesn't work, you're frustrated as hell. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But the moment it clicks, and even if you don't know why it clicks, it's just a kick of endorphins. To be honest with you.
Yeah. I've helped to build the Tribune's webpage, going from zero to figuring out how to put something on a page. So I know how it is.
Understood.
Yeah.
All
so in general now, where are you, and how much further do you need to go on this project?
Well, like I said, in terms of this is the minimal that we're offering right now. Yeah. The general reports. Like I said, there's a lot more in terms of data sets that we want to offer in terms of calculations, in terms of points of interest for persons, in terms of positivity rates and so on like that. There's a dashboard that is going to accompany this. I don't know the relevance of it right now in terms of the way COVID is happening, but it's still a nice feature to have. But as a general rule, we'd like to see this being searchable, easy to navigate, and accessible. That's the main thing for us. And then with the API, there's a lot of documentation that we're going to need to do to ensure that, hey, this is, if somebody wants to use this, what are the data sets that they're able to access, and how are they able to manipulate it, and the code base for that. So all of that is in the works in terms of those details. So there's a lot, and at the same time, not so much. It's just allotting the effort and time to it that's necessary.
Right. As far as we can see now, the data is probably not going to end anytime soon.
No. So like I said, I just uploaded this 600 report today. Yeah. And so that's 600 reports, and we've done about 80 of them. And so that leaves, 500 and something, 520 to go.
Yeah.
And like I said, with earlier data sets, that's another thing I didn't really account for in terms of earlier data sets, incomplete information. I got into this late into the game, and, I just assumed that would be consistent throughout. Even considering, there's some points of data missing from the current reports, or rather more data that I would like to see to create a fuller picture. Earlier reports, just as we saw, just don't have anything to go off of. So filling in those blanks would be one of the goals, and that's something I did not account for, and that's research. Again, that's more research and time. Everything that in terms of making this work and getting this language to work the way that it's supposed to is research and time. That's effort, and so there's nothing. It's not that it's completely difficult, or it's just a number of things to do.
Yeah.
And so managing to get those things accomplished is the main goal. Like I said, search features, better pagination, more information in terms of what's actually presented, so that person's going to have a better sense of the pandemic and the reports. And then to, like I said, documentation for the API itself. And then one thing we started with was a Facebook page and a Twitter page for this. And one thing that we noticed is that we're getting requests for other bits of information like when our booster shot's going to be available, and other government announcements and stuff like that. And we're not actually an official body, so we don't have any resources to provide any of these details. And so it would be great. That is actually something that I would like assistance from someone on, so that we can actually help and answer some of these questions. So that is another part of this that we want to incorporate, is basically points of reference for persons to go to for more information, either more information or to get a better sense of the information that's already there.
Yeah. Wow. We've come a long way, even though you still have a long way to go.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. I don't want to ask, how long does it take to put in the information from one report?
Pardon me?
How long does it take to put in the information from just one report?
It takes about, five. I would say 5 to 5. It depends on the person. An average
For
of
someone
five.
like me, a novice.
Yeah, I'd say about 15 minutes,
Okay.
and that's basically you want to enter the data, and then you're going to review the data. So, and then now that's for the person entering. Once it gets to me, there's a further review, but it takes about 15 minutes, and it depends on the person again.
Right.
Some people are quicker with it. If you get on the keyboard and you use your home keys and you stay on the computer rather frequently, making these doing these kinds of activities, then it's going to be a short time. For those who may not, it may take a little longer.
Gotcha.
And we've tried to keep the entries as the entry reports as consistent with the actual reports provided by the government. So it's literally a top down, left to right reading and entry system. So you're literally entering as you see it on the page. So it keeps that consistent flow for the user. One of the big things for me in terms of development is keeping the user experience as meaningful as possible and as accessible to the information that the user wants to see. That's most developers, hopefully. But that's the main thing. So making the whole point of this is, again, making COVID accessible, making it easy to find and navigate. And that's for anything that we're going to do in the future. So that, with that in mind, this is actually going to turn into a nonprofit idea that I'm working on. I think I want to provide more public data sets for the Bahamas. And, it's great to hear people saying, especially developers, I can't wait to work with my own, Bahamian data set. Because we usually use these, we're learning from persons all over the world. And, it's kind of, it doesn't matter in the sense that you're getting the information from the US or Canada or India, but it's nice to have your own kind of things to work with.
Yeah.
It's always nice to have your own kind of information that you're dealing with locally. This is us,
Yeah.
So I like that sense, and I like that this project is kind of doing that for persons as well.
Yeah, I can see a big project now. I see it with tourism. Logging numbers of visitors, as they lose a lot of data on people coming to Nassau and going to family islands. So I already see it coming.
Man, listen, I received that in the name of Jesus.
Amen to that, son.
But no, I if I get a big project out of it, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. I'm really pulling for that. But no, as much as I can make available, I would like to with my own effort. And if anybody wants that, again, I'm happy for any help to do it.
Right. Well, this is looking great so far. Thank you for all the work you're doing and have done already.
I appreciate it. And like I said, there's still more to go. So, we'll get to our goal, I'm sure.
I'm sure you will. And I encourage anybody who wants to even, try and do one entry. I'm going to come to you. I'm making this promise now, and I'm going to try and do an entry.
It's not that difficult, I promise you.
Yeah. So I'm going to throw my hand in there. Awesome. But yeah, thanks again, Joseph, for what you're doing. And I hope you get some more people on board and some more people, corporate Bahamas, looks into this and sees how valuable it is.
I appreciate that, Manchester.
It's great talking to you.
Great talking to you. Thanks again.
No problem.